very fortunate today to have Danielle King, Barstow Unified Science Specialist, as well as Dr. Shannon Dadlez, Riverside Unified School District, who serves as the Staff Development Specialist. Today, Shannon is going to be talking to us about recording student observations. Shannon.
Great. Thank you so much for having me here, Greg. I'm really excited to share what we know about recording observations. It's a great way for us to meld science with English language arts. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here so that way you can see what we have prepared for you today. So we're going to focus on recording observations and writing today. And as we start, I just want you to reflect for a moment and just think about a group activity that you really enjoy doing. I know that with our pandemic right now, we can't participate in a lot of group activities. So reflect on that for a moment, and if you could just pop that into the chat, that would be great. Or just reflect for a moment on a group activity that you normally enjoy doing. We're going to come back to this group activity later on as well. So I see some interesting things going on there, and we're just going to continue on a little bit and hold that in your mind as we continue. We have some goals for your students today. I really want you to think about whether you are having your students truly experience 5E science instruction. That's a goal that by the end of this, we hope that you move into. We really have a goal for you to increase your students' curiosity and start using science for writing and for academic discussions. It's a fabulous tool to do that. We have a goal that your students are going to make observations and ask questions, and overall that they're really going to enjoy science and use it as a vehicle to promote ELD and ELA. Love this quote here. Every kid starts out as a natural born scientist, and then we beat it out of them. A few trickle through the system with their wonder and enthusiasm for science intact. So take a moment and reflect on that. Is science right now inspiring wonder as it does in real life? And can we get that through a virtual setting right now? I think we can. Right now, we've got to remember too about our shifts in science for NGSS, that science is moving away from just knowing about facts in science and moving into figuring out. We really want them to make sense of the world. Science is not a collection of facts any more than a work of literature is just a pile of words in a dictionary. So we really need to make sure that that's what we're moving towards here today, is that we're helping students to know about. And that follows the same shift in ELA. Our Common Core asks our students to read stories, but we're also really stressing them right down here. These critical thinking skills, problem solving, analytical skills, getting them college, career, life ready. And no, nothing captures a way to really push that problem solving more so than involvement in science. And so, well, why do we want to do science first, even in a virtual setting? Well, it's possible that you want more engagement, okay? If this is what you're seeing, or maybe a little bit of this, okay? We really want to move into having our students truly be engaged, even online. The students are natural born scientists. They have a lot of previous experience just from being out of the playground and observing what they see. We need to give students a reason to talk and to try to make sense of the world around them with regard to science phenomena. And this follows a 5E instructional model. So just in case you are not quite as familiar with that as you used to be, we want to make sure that you engage those students in some kind of phenomena problem. Give those students an opportunity to explore, let the students explain it, and then they can elaborate it into a new situation. And that whole time the students are evaluating, is this helping them understand it? And the teacher's evaluating where they're at. So we can take that also and look at our ELA standards. So our Common Core Writing Standard 1 is asking students to write arguments to support claims. They have to use that reasoning and evidence. And that's exactly what we're asking students to do in science. So we're going to look at using observations to link those and bring it into writing today. When we write an argument or opinion paragraph, a couple things to remember is that in TK through 5, we call it opinion in English language arts. 6 through 8 then moves into argument in English language arts. But in science, it's referred to argument throughout TK-12. So your argument is your claim, and then you back that up with evidence and reasoning. And this makes a great paragraph structure to teach kids how to write it. In our previous encounters earlier with RCOE in San Bernardino, we were given the opportunity to work with Lynn Figure 8 on Name It, Verb It, Finish It. And that's what we're going to look at just as a review real quick, is that we saw a picture and we named the type of text. In this case, we looked at a picture. We gave it the title, the author, or perhaps the photographer. We verb for what was happening, and then we made. Let's take a look at this. We're going to start off with Name It. So I have this image here. And in the chat, if you could just kind of pop in exactly what would we name these critters? Yes, ants. Can you tell me more? Great. These are leafcutter ants. That is marvelous. Thank you. And now we're going to verb it. Now I want you to think about this from the perspective, though, of the photographer. So what's the photographer trying to do in this picture? Show teamwork, show hard work, show the lives of ants. Okay, and now we're going to finish it. So what's happening? What is it that they're doing at this moment? Okay, and then we're going to put all that together. In the photograph, the photographer showed something or captured something or demonstrated something. You know, what is it that they're trying to demonstrate or do? And then that finish it part, you're able to finish off that main idea or that beginning sentence that you want to start off that paragraph with, just based on your observation that you saw right there, just showing one picture just briefly. Okay. So let's focus on those observations a little bit more deeply. What is an observation? Well, an observation is not what you already know. So right now we did observe a photo, but that's just looking at it. It didn't really explain anything until we took it a little bit further. Because an observation is not just an explanation or an inference, such example, like say, oh, I noticed he's sitting on the roots of the tree. Okay, that's an observation. You're telling me exactly what behaviors are occurring. He's waiting for a friend. Okay, that's an inference. You don't know that because you're not in that particular critter's mind. So we're really taking a look at just exactly what you see happening very specifically. We like using this nice little acronym in case you don't have any in your acronym dictionary as fun as this one, INIWORMO. That stands for I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of. When you make an observation, you can give your kids those sentence frames to begin with, I notice. It could be I see, I hear, I smell for those younger students. And then you want to ask them about, I wonder. Well, what do you wonder about that? What does it remind you of? So these leafcutter ants, if we were observing them, okay, we would take that into possibly our Jamboard to record some of those thoughts and observations that we have. I put the picture in here for us, and we can go ahead and add a few sticky notes about what we're noticing or what we're wondering. So some people might notice that there are many ants. And we would keep adding some sticky notes on there for what other things that we're noticing, anything from the direction that they're pointing, the size of what they're carrying. And then we would also want to add some I wonder statements on here. So I wonder, I'm just going to use a different color because I like that. What are they going to do? You can add yours in the chat right now too. I wonder what they're going to do with leaves. Okay. And I'm going to put that in a little I wonder section. I can slide these around. So if you saw somebody that put something up there that you're wondering the same thing, you can also grab a little star here and put it on there next to it so that you're kind of saying, yes, I agree with you. All right. Even though we're not in person, we can't talk, doesn't mean that we can't share ideas and we can't agree with each other. All right. So right now we're taking a look at just that, what we're noticing and what we're wondering on there. Okay. Then we can go into that reminds me of, and we can add the same thing. This reminds me of me carrying all the laundry upstairs at the end of the week. This reminds me of, a lot of different things it could remind us of. And so we're going to add a little bit of that information onto there as well. Okay. Oops, a little bit too far there. Okay, so let me come back into our presentation. So I want you to reflect a little bit on how science and language really connect. As students would be writing all of their sticky notes and trying to get that information down, and you're monitoring that Jamboard or that chat, you're able to offer up information students might need. So students might need to talk about how the ants are carrying the leaves with their mandibles. They might want to talk about student weight versus the weight of the ant versus the weight of the leaf. There are many different vocabulary terms that you would feed them as the students are needing them. And so as those terms come up, you can offer them up as students seem to be searching for the terms or using terms that aren't quite there. And it gives them a context because they need that word at that time. So at that point, they need to know the word limb instead of just piece of wood, or they need to have that word mandible or possibly thorax or whatever term that they might be searching for at that point in time. And it really helps your Jamboards or even your Padlets build. Okay, so here's one we did on monkeys, all right? And so all of those things can be encouraged in your students as they're typing, and they can go back in and revise. So that vocabulary that we're taking, we can then take that vocabulary and then keep it for the students on a pocket chart, on a word wall that's part of their Google Classroom that they can go back and visit, put that within our PowerPoint slides, our Google slides, so that they have those terms to go back and revisit and start using as they go into chat rooms and discuss, as they start trying to type out sentences. Then they start using those terms within context. And the important thing is that they had some kind of experience beforehand. They had an opportunity to observe these ants. They had an opportunity to think about things before. And so they really aren't going to really know what the heck a mandible is until they've seen it used. They aren't going to understand them taking it to a nest until they've actually seen it utilized. Okay. So this activity before content is what we refer to as ABC. So now that we've had a little bit of observation of our ants, go outside, look at a few, see if you can find any, take your magnifying glass with you. Only now can we begin to offer some additional articles. Only now can we really start trying to have students answer some of those questions. At this point, they've had ideas that they're wondering about, and they want to know if they're correct with those wonderings. They're going to read, and cognitively they're searching for answers as opposed to just getting to the end of the story, right? As I said, we can build that vocabulary, but also we can offer up this vocabulary as a way for students to build a sentence themselves as well, okay? So writing and language connect in science because it really grounds our language in something concrete, and it gives, particularly our EL learners, comprehensible input. Very often when we talk about things in science, it's extremely conceptual. When we're talking about a habitat or we're talking about a food web, you can draw that, but you really don't understand it until you actually see it in action. And so because we see these concepts, it's really good to experience them as opposed to just observe them through a reading, okay? Now, it's also really important that they're active speaking in learning language. They need to share their observations so that they can build off of each other's, and that topic to talk about is really crucial. This gets into many of our science and engineering practices. It helps our students ask questions. It helps them think about models and how they might plan an investigation to find out things. Their observations are part of data that they're actually collecting. They can then turn that into mathematical models if they wanted to. It helps them construct an explanation for what they see. Why in the world are those ants walking around in a group carrying a bunch of leaves? Can you explain that? So they've got to figure that out, and their observations allow them to have that evidence that they need to engage in argument. Communicating information is a critical SEP. If scientists didn't exchange their ideas, there wouldn't be ideas to build off of, and we certainly wouldn't be making any great leaps and discoveries. Students also need to share their ideas. So when we come back to, is it better for them to live alone or live in groups here? So what do you think here? So that's a question we're going to pose. We have these ants. This is a 3rd grade performance expectation. Is it better to live alone or in groups? So in chat or in your poll there, can you go ahead and tell us, what's your prediction? What do you think? Do you think they should live alone? Do you think they should live in groups? Okay. And that's where we're working on our claim and our evidence. We can go back into our Jamboard again. And in our Jamboard, click another slide, and we're going to be able to write our claim. Is it beneficial to live in a group? Is it not beneficial to live in a group? We can add our claims onto our Jamboard with all of our ideas. And then we're going to be able to think about writing these up then. Go back. So we have our main idea with our name it, verb it, finish it. We've started to do a little bit of observing and collecting some evidence, okay? And then we'd be able to take that into our argument and opinion writing. This one is more for an upper grader level. So we'd have that claim, our evidence, and be able to cite where we got it from. It could be in the photograph, in the picture, in the video, and then we'd also add our reasoning into that, okay? So is it better to live alone or in groups? So again, we could take them into a Padlet for what they claim. And then we need to have that evidence and that reasoning. So you would be drawing back on that photograph, video of ants possibly, your own observations going outside, looking at ants, to explain what you think that would prove it to me. Okay, so prove it. Well, you know, is it better to live alone or not to live alone? Okay, and you'd be able to prove that to me. Now, when we're discussing in, say, a breakout room, or while students are putting their information on Padlet, there are some goals that I want to focus on in order to get kids to talk about their observations. First, I got to give them time to talk. And it's so hard to do there virtually. I know it's 17 seconds to wait for a student to respond, but when you're on the computer, that 17 seconds seems like a really long time. We still have to make sure that we give people opportunities for that wait time, give people opportunities to think about what somebody else wrote on a Padlet or on a Jamboard and respond. And then as a teacher, we can come in and say, oh, can you tell me more about that? You know, what do you mean by that? Can you give me an example of when that would be happening? And then we can paraphrase them. This helps the students to share, and it also reinforces that, hey, my idea is being validated. I'm not a teacher simply saying, good, okay, who else? We're actually validating the student has shared their thoughts, no matter what the thoughts are, okay? And then we want to get students to interact with each other, and so we can ask them to repeat it or rephrase it, or in this case, can you move those similar ideas close to each other? Or can you star an idea that was similar to yours? Then we start asking students for evidence and to share their ideas there, okay? So, you know, if you can say it, you can write it. So breakout rooms work great if you're comfortable with those. And giving those opportunities for students are marvelous, but we also have to make sure that we give them those supports for kids. We have to provide them those supports and remove any barriers that stand in their way. You can put sentence frames directly onto any of whiteboard tools that are using for observations, or provide them just behind you on a pocket chart that you have against the wall right behind you. So whenever they look at you, they have those sentence frames taped up right behind you. Might be low tech, but it still works, okay? Where would you begin with getting kids to collect some observations? I love taking kids outdoors. Okay? We have so much screen time right now. But to tell them, hey, you got a 10-minute break, I want everybody to go outside and find me a leaf. Bring it back. Turn on your camera and show me. Okay. So automatically, those cameras are going to pop on. They're going to want to participate. Bird watching. Anybody see any birds out there lately? You know, this time of year we've got hummingbirds and cedar waxwings and bluebirds coming on. And you know, there's always those little sparrows that hang around Disneyland all the time. Did anybody see any of those? How about a crow? What did you see? And so offering that opportunity for what are you experiencing in your backyard right now gives those kids a way to connect and come up with ideas. Is it better for these birds to live in groups? Moon watching or stargazing is going on. We've had some incredible events this year during the pandemic. If you didn't get a chance to see the comet, okay, there's still going to be other conjunctions, and the moon is always amazing to go look at. So that can be a flipped classroom, you know, part of your homework. Go outside, look at the moon tonight. All right, see if you can screen capture it. Live webcams are awesome. If you haven't had an opportunity to take a look at some of the things the Exploratorium offers, they were able to host us earlier, if you remember, and we were able to watch snails. It was really interesting. Not everybody would think that, wow, watching a camera with a snail would be thrilling, but it's actually really cool. So, you know, you could be doing a live webcam, but there's also ones already out there with zoos and stuff like that. We got all kinds of things that we can investigate. So again, you know, get your leaves out there. Find out, why is my cat always attracted to warm objects, please? Can we do an investigation and figure that out, please? You know, what are the birds that are out there? Is there anything up in the sky? And those live webcams at the zoos, there's ones that are watching the bald eagles right now in Big Bear. Those are all opportunities for your kids to just sit and collect some observations live for like 5 or 10 minutes. And then you come back and you share what you've got. So you can also do just experiments and investigations there in your own home with whatever you've got. You can watch ice melt. Doesn't sound terribly exciting, but it is. What happens if you put ice on a piece of wood versus ice in a metal pan? What happens if you add salt? So all those things, just to kind of have an observation. What did you notice? What did you see? Making oobleck's always fun. Warn the parents beforehand, but it does all vacuum up. Everybody's got a lot of takeout right now. Don't tell me you don't have a ketchup packet in your refrigerator. We can all make these Cartesian divers for taking a look at what happens when we apply pressure. And of course, just condensation. We're lucky we've got a little humidity going on, so we might actually be able to observe some condensation in California for a change. So all these are opportunities for kids to just sit right there with you and actually experience something. So we're teaching online. And you've been doing this for a year. You've got this. You have reinvented education. You've been doing a fantastic job. And you're just going to kick it up a level with doing some more observations. Okay, you've got it. You can do this. We can do it with Google Slides. You already have been. If you haven't used Jamboard, I just wanted to show you a couple pieces of how that was really easy. Padlet and Seesaw are also options that many districts also have. You can do an old-fashioned way with your Google Classroom with your kids. Just go ahead and record things in their science notebooks for what they're observing. You know, we've got a beautiful picture of this dragonfly here. They just took a picture of it with their camera, loaded it on up into Google Classroom, and there it is. So you don't have to be really techie in order to have students record their observations. Okay, you can just have it be just a regular screen right there. Every year, leaves fall out of trees. Where do you think they go? Okay, so this is a question straight out of Mystery Science. Students could record their observations on their Google slide, turn it right into your Google Classroom. There are lots of different pieces that you could use as you go through a 5E lesson. And so I've included this as a bit.ly from our StepCon earlier in the year for you to download and take a look and see, what works best in this area, okay? Padlets are great for that initial engage for what you're noticing and what you're wondering. Jamboards are fantastic. This is Danielle's from, I believe, first grade. Is that right, Danielle?
This is actually from kindergarten. And so one of the ways that I was showing the kindergarten teachers how they can, excuse me, break the barriers for their students writing is I gave them this text from a kindergarten text, and I gave them some pre-made name it, verb it, finish it, the green, the name it, the blue, the verb it, and the pink, the finish it. And I purposefully color-coded them to help the students create those sentences. Now, I explained to them that at the beginning, and probably maybe even now, some of their students are not 100% writers. And so this way gives them, it breaks that barrier. All they need to do is to be able to make the matches. They're making the puzzle pieces fit together. If they can do that, and the more proficient they become at it, Then eventually the teacher will move into the students creating those sticky notes. They're creating their name it, verb it, finish it. You could also create all of the sticky notes just in one color to give them more of a challenge. Can they pick out those verbs even though they're not color coded anymore? So I believe that the Jamboard is a really good resource to use, especially right now and post-pandemic, for students to be able to get their thoughts down in a breaking the barriers kind of way.
I love the way that you structured that, Danielle, to really give support to those kids and to give them a structured model right off the beginning. And you're right, not all of our kids are able to do as much writing. So sometimes when we have things like a picture of the day, it can be helpful to do the I notice, I wonder, but already make a Post-it note or a sticky note like you did, but this is one per kid. And that way it's already made, it's already started. You also have a little bit more pressure to actually finish it. So that way there's one already there for you, okay? Now we also have Seesaw for our primary teachers. So Seesaw is like Padlet in that they have sticky notes and they have things they can type and they have pictures they can bring in. But this is great for primary students because it also allows students to take their own photo and upload it with just one click of a button. And Seesaw also allows students to record either just audio or video of themselves. So for our students, as Danielle said, that might not be the writers that they are, Seesaw gives them a great option of simply speaking and recording their name it, verb it, finish it, or what they observed or claimed. So that way the teacher can simply listen to what the student has shared. Kindergarten students have no problem pressing that button to record, and then just it sends it straight on up to their teachers. This is free for teachers. You can do one slide. If your district purchases it, you have an unlimited number of slides to be able to use. The nice thing too is if they aren't readers, you record your own voice recording the instruction for what you do. And this is actually a linked video that the kids can then click on. So again, they can observe the video or observe outside. And then here we're having them take a photo of their own rocks and record their voice and make a video showing their rocks. And so this is the way for students to get their observations if they are not into written form yet. Again, we can use Google Slides. This one comes out of actually History's Mysteries in our history sections. If you haven't had a chance to see History's Mysteries by the Library of Congress, this is also a great inquiry lesson here. And they can type directly on these slides their answers to questions with these sentence frames built in to support our learners. Again, science is connecting directly into our Common Core standards for writing by using these arguments to be supported with argument with evidence. And so these opportunities to really engage students in science first, and then take them into the speaking and the writing and the listening each other is really a great opportunity for kids to truly engage. Let's not forget that next generation science standards were designed to integrate with math and with ELA, particularly with regard to the engage in argument with evidence. Really hope that you have enjoyed taking a look at some of the ways that you can encourage students to do observations and some of the ways that you can record observations. If you'd like to download the slideshow, simply type in bit.ly observations RCOE 2-4-21 and feel free to reach out to myself at riversideunified.org, that's S. Dadlez, or also to reach out to Danielle King in Barstow Unified or Lynn Figure-8 at RCOE. Thank you again, and we look forward to hearing about the great job you're doing with your students.